You know, usually when we talk about like a ticking clock in sports, we always picture the final seconds of a basketball game or a frantic 2-minute drill in football. It's visible, right? It's right there on the scoreboard for everyone to see.
Right. Yeah, the parameters in those situations are just clearly defined. You know exactly how much time you have left to make your move.
Yeah.
And I mean, the pressure is entirely external.
Exactly. But then you step into the world of Formula One. Specifically, you go inside the fiercely guarded gates of Maranello, the home of Ferrari.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly, that ticking clock isn't on a scoreboard at all. It's invisible. It's hidden in the telemetry data, in the hushed whispers of the paddock, and honestly, in the looming shadow of a 20-year-old kid waiting in the garage.
Waiting in the wings. Yep.
So today we are doing a deep dive, and we are cutting right through the PR noise of the 2026 Ferrari season. We've got our hands on some incredibly detailed internal knowledge.
The real stuff.
Yeah, the real stuff. A stack of recent driver contract leaks and this absolutely brutal lap-by-lap telemetry analysis. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty simple. We are going to find the real story behind Lewis Hamilton's current performance, Charles Leclerc's, internal dominance within the team, and this massive threat of a young prodigy ready to take the throne.
Because right now, let's be honest, Ferrari is hosting a generational battle.
It's a bloodbath.
It really is. You have a 7-time world champion desperately fighting for his legacy. Yeah. And the mainstream headlines, they're telling a story that the cold, hard, internal data entirely contradicts.
Like, completely contradicts the narrative being sold to you out there, and the reality of the actual stopwatch are, they're operating in two completely different time zones.
They are. The contract mechanics, they tell us what's happening in the boardroom, but this granular lap-by-lap data we're looking at, that tells us what's actually happening out on the asphalt.
Right. And before we even look at Hamilton's current struggles on the track, we really have to understand the massive sword hanging over his head off the track.
Oh, the sword has a name.
It definitely has a name. Oliver BEARMAN. I mean, look, this kid is just 20 years old. He's only in his second F1 season, and he has already secured a Ferrari seat for next year as the chosen substitute if Hamilton doesn't renew his contract.
Which is wild.
It's insane. His 2026 stats so far are just mind-blowing. We are only 3 races into the season, and BEARMAN already has 17 points.
Yep.
He is sitting 7th in the Drivers' Championship. He is single-handedly outscoring the entire Red Bull team.
I mean, that is just an astonishing statistic when you consider the machinery he is in, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the historical dominance of Red Bull.
Oh, absolutely.
For a customer team, and by that I mean a team buying parts from the big manufacturers, to be outscoring a powerhouse. It's incredibly rare. But listen, this isn't a flash in the pan.
No, not at all.
Last season, BEARMAN beat his highly experienced teammate, Esteban Ocon, by 3 points. He scored 51 total points in a car that wasn't even leading the midfield. He is just wringing every single ounce of performance out of that equipment.
And he's like tough as nails too.
Yeah.
He just survived a terrifying 50G crash at the Japanese Grand Prix.
50 Gs.
I mean, 50 Gs. For context, that is 50 times the force of gravity is slamming into his body. That's the kind of impact that leaves drivers bruised, winded, and honestly psychologically rattled for weeks.
Oh, it destroys your confidence.
Right, and he just brushed it off. And then Ayao Komatsu, the team principal at Haas, basically came out and practically admitted that Ferrari has been investing in BEARMAN for years. Komatsu noted that if Ferrari wants him next year, well, it just proves Haas did their job perfectly in developing him.
Yeah, and Komatsu's exact phrasing there, it reveals a sort of quiet acceptance of the F1 food chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haas knows they're just the finishing school. They have no real autonomy over their own driver because Ferrari is the one pulling the strings behind the curtain.
Okay, so I look at this and I think about like a highly anticipated tech IPO.
Okay, I like that.
Right. BEARMAN is like this startup that has been heavily backed by venture capitalists, in this case, obviously, the Ferrari Driver Academy, since his Formula 4 days.
They've poured millions into him.
Millions, simulating every possible race scenario, physically training him for years. But wait, let me push back for a second. Putting a 20-year-old kid in the most high-pressure seat in global motorsport, that sounds like a classic Ferrari PR stunt to just scare Hamilton at the negotiating table, not like a real succession plan.
I get why you'd think that. But if we look at the timeline, this is absolutely not a bluff. It is a highly calculated succession plan.
You really think so?
100%. BEARMAN's ties to the Ferrari Academy run deep. I mean, he was a champion in both the Italian and German Formula 4 championships. He took third in his Formula 3 debut. But the real proof of concept, that was his stunning F1 debut at just 18 years old in Saudi Arabia back in 2024.
Oh man, Saudi, that was crazy.
It was unreal. He was thrown into the Ferrari at the absolute last minute to replace Carlos Sainz on one of the most dangerous high-speed street circuits on the entire calendar. And he finished 7th.
With like barely any practice.
Exactly. You just don't fake that kind of composure. When a teenager jumps into a championship contending car with almost zero preparation and delivers points on a track where the walls are literally inches away, the team takes notice. Ferrari isn't using him as a pawn. He is the designated heir.
So Hamilton must know that if he blinks, his seat is gone.
Oh, he knows.
Which brings a whole new level of gravity to the immense pressure he is under right now. I mean, if you read the mainstream sports narratives over the last couple of weeks, they are practically shouting, "The king is back! The best Hamilton is back!" just because he scored his first Ferrari podium this season.
Yeah, the PR machine is working overtime.
But our internal telemetry data rips this narrative completely apart. It calls this 2026 resurgence a complete mirage.
A total mirage. And the data we have to back that up is, honestly, it's devastatingly clear. To understand the mirage, we really have to look at the baseline.
Right, take us back to last year.
Okay, late 2025 was undeniably the worst moment of Lewis Hamilton's entire career. We are talking about scoring only 4 points in Las Vegas, while LeClerc scored 12.
4 points, that's brutal.
It gets worse. He qualified dead last in Vegas. He suffered humiliating Q1 exits in Qatar and Abu Dhabi.
Which means he was knocked out in the very first round of qualifying.
Exactly. A session where usually only the absolute slowest cars on the grid get eliminated. And he finished his first season at Ferrari with 0 wins and 0 podiums.
0. Okay, so the bar for improvement was set incredibly low.
On the floor.
Yeah, on the floor. So when you compare the start of 2025, which everyone, wrote off as his adaptation year at Ferrari, to the start of this current 2026 season, the data shows 0 actual progress against his teammate, Charles Leclerc.
None. Let's look at the telemetry from Australia. So telemetry is the exact digital footprint of what the car is doing.
Yeah.
Every throttle press, every brake pedal pressure, every single degree of steering angle.
The stuff you can't hide from.
Precisely. In 2026, the telemetry showed Hamilton was 0.151 seconds behind Leclerc in qualifying. Last year, in 2025, the gap was 0.218 seconds.
Wow.
It is virtually identical. A tenth of a second in Formula One is the difference between braking a fraction of a meter later or carrying a tiny bit more speed through a single corner.
It's nothing.
Right. And yes, in the 2026 race, Hamilton showed good pace, but Leclerc was already safely coasting in 3rd place. It brings to mind that famous quote from Juan Manuel Fangio, your goal is to win or be 3rd running as slowly as possible.
Right. Leclerc didn't even need to push.
Exactly.
Huh.
He was merely managing the gap to the cars behind him. He had it entirely under control.
And then we get to China, which is historically Hamilton's absolute playground. I mean, it's his best track.
Historically, yes.
In 2026, Hamilton beat Leclerc in the sprint qualifying and the main race, but lost the sprint race. But look at 2025. Last year, he won the sprint pole, won the sprint race, but lost the main race to Leclerc.
The pattern is identical.
It remains completely unbroken. Hamilton can have these fleeting moments of brilliance, but he fundamentally struggles to consistently dominate Leclerc across a full weekend.
He just cannot string it together anymore. The peaks are there, sure, but the sustained, relentless pressure that defined Hamilton's championship years is just missing.
Okay, here's where it gets incredibly confusing for me. 2025 was his rookie year at Ferrari. He had just spent 12 years driving with Mercedes engines. The culture shock, the new steering wheel, the new engineers, you expect a gap.
Sure, adaptation takes time.
Right. But 2026 features a brand new car built with Hamilton's own DNA. He gave the feedback. He shaped the development over the winter. If the car is built for him, why is he stuck in the exact same position relative to Leclerc?
Because, as our data synthesizes so brilliantly, Hamilton hasn't actually made a step forward in absolute terms. All he has done is recover from that abysmal late 2025 slump back to his early 2025 baseline.
Ouch.
And that baseline is, consistently, a step and a half behind Charles Leclerc. When you strip away the disaster of late 2025, you realize Hamilton is just treading water. The car might fit his preferences a little better, but it hasn't unlocked any new performance delta against his teammate.
Man, that is a brutal reality check.
Yeah.
And, the lack of progress is concerning enough, but Our internal findings point out that it becomes genuinely alarming when you look at how the new 2026 F1 regulations are fundamentally working against Hamilton's raw driving talent.
Oh, this is the core of the issue.
Right. If you've ever felt completely boxed in by a new mandatory software update at work that limits how you do your job, you will understand exactly what Hamilton is facing with these 2026 cars.
That's a great way to put it. The technical evolution of the sport is intersecting directly with the driver's psychology.
Explain that because it sounds crazy.
Well, the 2026 cars are heavily reliant on complex energy management. Drivers are forced into techniques like lift and coast, where they literally have to let off the throttle 50 meters before the braking zone just to coast into the corner.
Just to save fuel and battery.
Exactly. And they're also dealing with super clipping.
What does that even mean, super clipping?
It's this phenomenon where the electrical deployment from the hybrid battery abruptly cuts out at the end of the straights. The car just suddenly stops accelerating before you even reach the braking point.
Wow.
And the cars are even harvesting energy in the middle of fast corners, which completely changes the balance of the chassis mid-turn.
That sounds completely counterintuitive to everything a racing driver wants to do. I mean, you want to push the limit, balance the car on a knife edge, not manage a battery cycle mid-corner while the car is trying to decelerate on its own.
It is counterintuitive. LeClerc has openly complained about this. He hates it. He says he can't use his full raw talent over a single qualifying lap because the car's computers simply won't allow him to push. He feels trapped in a procedural straitjacket, just managing systems rather than driving purely on instinct.
But here is the absolute kicker. Even with the car heavily minimizing the driver's raw input, essentially leveling the playing field by limiting what the driver can physically do, Hamilton is still consistently behind Leclerc by a tenth and a half in qualifying.
Right.
If the car's computer is artificially limiting the talent gap and Hamilton is still losing, that strongly implies the actual underlying talent gap between them right now might be even larger than the lap times show.
And that exact theory was violently tested during the 2026 race in Japan.
Oh, let's talk about Japan. We mentioned BEARMAN's 50G crash earlier. That crash brought out a safety car, and the timing of it handed Lewis Hamilton a massive golden tactical advantage.
He couldn't have asked for a better scenario.
Hamilton came out of the pits ahead of Leclerc, running on much fresher, vastly superior tires. He had what they call the tire delta, meaning his fresh rubber gave him significantly more grip and speed than Leclerc's worn-out tires. He had every card in the deck.
He had track position, he had the tire delta, and the pedigree of a 7-time world champion who knows exactly how to defend a position.
And despite all of that, Leclerc not only hunted Hamilton down and passed him on older tires, but he pulled away to secure a podium finish in third, leaving Hamilton stranded down in sixth place.
Unbelievable.
To put this in perspective, it's like starting a marathon with a massive head start, wearing brand new carbon-plated running shoes, and still watching your teammates sprint past you in worn-out old sneakers. It physically should not be possible.
But he did it. And Leclerc didn't just drive faster, he adapted to the super clipping restrictions better. Our data shows he altered his braking bias mid-corner to save the rear tires.
Wow.
He was essentially working with the computer's limitations to maintain momentum. Hamilton, meanwhile, was forcing his traditional aggressive late-braking driving style onto a 2026 car that simply wouldn't accept it.
So he was fighting the car.
Exactly. He was overdriving the tires, destroying his own grip advantage, trying to fight the car's natural physics. It is a staggering data point. Our internal analysis flags this specific race as the first massive blow to Hamilton this season.
Because it's not just about one lap anymore.
Right. It proves unequivocally that the problem isn't just about qualifying setups or getting heat into the tires over one lap. Japan revealed a fundamental structural deficit in Hamilton's race pace.
I'm looking at these stats, and I'm thinking, didn't race day used to be his ultimate superpower? I feel like I remember him being the guy who could pull off miracles on Sundays even when his qualifying was terrible. Is that what's missing now?
You are remembering perfectly. If we look back to 2024 at Mercedes, George Russell absolutely crushed Hamilton in qualifying that year. But on Sunday, Hamilton regularly destroyed Russell. Think of the rain at Silverstone, where Hamilton just found grip that didn't exist for anyone else on the track, or that ruthless last-lap overtake on Russell in Abu Dhabi.
He was untouchable in a race.
Always. Hamilton always had that extra gear in the race. He was the ultimate Sunday driver. He could manage tires better than anyone in history and still deliver devastating lap times. But now, Leclerc is giving Hamilton a comprehensive beating in both qualifying and race pace. Seeing Lewis Hamilton utterly defenseless against his teammate in Japan is the ultimate red flag for his career trajectory.
Because when a driver realizes the car's computer is limiting his raw talent, and he still can't beat his teammate even when he's on fresh tires, that mechanical deficit instantly becomes a psychological one.
100%.
I mean, what happens inside a champion's helmet when the data tells him he's no longer the fastest? Formula One is, at its core, a brutal mental game.
Oh, it's all in the head.
And Hamilton is notoriously an incredibly emotional driver. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and his performance is deeply tied to his momentum and his headspace. Now, the F1 calendar enters a massive one-month break in April.
Which is dangerous.
Super dangerous for a driver who is already questioning his pace, giving him 30 days of empty track time to just sit in simulator sessions, staring at telemetry traces where his teammate is simply faster. I mean, that is the absolute last thing he needs. If he doesn't find a mental reset, he risks spiraling right back into that same cycle of negativity that completely ruined his late 2025 season.
The contrast in the garage right now is just stark. Look at how LeClerc reacted in China. Even after losing the main race to Hamilton, LeClerc was standing in front of the press, smiling, totally relaxed.
Which is weird, right? You would normally expect a driver of LeClerc's caliber to be furious, or at least intensely analyzing the loss with a scowl on his face.
Exactly. But when you look at the underlying telemetry, you realize exactly what that smile meant.
What did it mean?
It was the smile of a driver who has looked at the data and realized that his legendary teammate, despite the new car, despite a year of adaptation, despite winning that specific race, hasn't actually improved from last year's baseline over the course of the season.
He knows he has him.
Yes, LeClerc knows deep down that he possesses the fundamental upper hand in all conditions. The threat has been completely neutralized. He doesn't need to panic over one lost race because he knows he owns the war.
Wow. So why does a battle inside an Italian race team matter to you listening to this right now? Because this is a masterclass, a fascinating case study in how past legacy cannot shield you from current data.
It really is.
It shows us how easily mainstream narratives like the massive PR push insisting Hamilton is back can be completely dismantled if you just take the time to look at the granular context of year-over-year performance. The scoreboard or the occasional podium might say one thing, but the underlying mechanisms and telemetry always tell the truth.
It forces us to question everything we are watching on the surface. And honestly, it raises an incredibly important question as we look toward the rest of this season.
Okay, lay it on us.
If Hamilton's legendary race pace has truly been neutralized, whether by the passage of time, the procedural complexity of the 2026 regulations, or simply a faster teammate who has mastered the modern era of energy management, is Oliver Bearman's guaranteed 2027 seat actually a safety net for Ferrari? Or is it the ultimate leverage, carefully designed by the team to quietly force an F1 icon into retirement before he tarnishes his own legacy?
Man, that invisible ticking clock inside Maranello isn't just counting down the laps anymore, it's counting down a legacy. Something to think about next time you see the cars line up on the grid. Until next time, keep digging past the headlines.